So my name's Joel, I work for Indiegogo. I cover our European markets as well as a little bit of Asia as well. So I'm working with quite a lot of teams in South Korea and Japan and then actually the whole of Europe. Indiegogo is one of the largest crowdfunding platforms. Essentially we help entrepreneurs of all sizes essentially take a product to market. So my day-to-day is generally working with actually 15 to 20 entrepreneurs or startups every single month who are taking a consumer product online and actually, ultimately selling it to a global audience. Lots of what I do actually resonates really well with what Sally was saying right at the start. So lots of synergies there, particularly the bad stuff, so the uncontrolled growth. And we see that less now, but I'm sure a lot of people here have heard of those sort of horror stories where a business will raise $2, $3, $4 million and ultimately can't deliver what they've promised because they don't have the right people internally to be able to fulfill their promises. They have grown too quickly. They don't have the infrastructure in place whatsoever. So what I'm here to do is generally work directly with these guys, sometimes a few weeks before they launch, other times it is actually maybe 6 to 9 months before they launch, and ultimately get them to the point where they are ready to launch their product or essentially take something to market, and ultimately be at that point where they've essentially ticked all of the boxes. That therefore makes their campaign more efficient. They've usually spent a little bit more time actually putting it together. The planning stage is one of the biggest reasons that campaigns fail, because actually there are two reasons. One is that they don't spend enough time in the preparation stages, so they're not looking at who their customer base is, they're not putting their ad strategy together, they're not looking at marketing and comms. And then the other side of things is actually because they don't know who their consumers are, they haven't targeted them, they haven't built a list of people, and they're essentially launching to nobody, which is why you see a lot of campaigns, actually about 60-65% of campaigns, maybe reach $100 and that's about it, because it's the campaign owner putting that money in to see, is this working? Whereas what they should have done, several weeks before that is, who do I need to reach out to before I launch my product to the world to ensure that it gets the right momentum in the early stages and ultimately I raise the money that I'm looking for. So it's very much, crowdfunding is not a magic solution for a lot of people. It's very much about the marketing and the work that you put in beforehand. Why this fits into today, I suppose, is the formula behind it as well. There's a clear strategy and a clear process that you ultimately should go through. Again, lots of which lines up with what Sally was saying, to be able to ultimately achieve whatever goal it is. Now, if you're a startup business, great. Often you're looking for the money. You can then go and manufacture the product, you can grow the business, you can scale up, fantastic. But on the other side of things, I work with a lot of companies like Bose and Morphy Richards, and we've got GE and Whirlpool and the likes of them. And the efficiencies that they're creating are that if they take a new product to market, it can cost them $20-30 million to be able to do that. But it can cost them 20 times less than that if they want to test something and essentially validate whether there is a demand within the market. And again, that's where we come in. So there's a real range of different types of organisations that we're working with. And the motivations that each of those small businesses or even the big businesses have is generally, let's get funding in, let's prove that this concept is something that people want, and actually let's provide some evidence by accepting pre-orders that we have got a customer base, we can get money in the bank almost straight away, and we can take it to manufacturing pretty quickly. Obviously, there are lots of different types of crowdfunding. We particularly look at rewards crowdfunding, equity crowdfunding, ICOs, which is a more recent thing. The point I suppose I want to make is that a lot of growth stage companies are often missing several quite key elements, not only to actually put a crowdfunding campaign together, but actually for the longevity of their business. So we actually help them identify a lot of those things initially, because they've got to get themselves to a certain stage where they're ready and prove that they are ready to, to ultimately take something to market. And then that reflects on them quite well, usually in the long term, because if they can raise 100, 200, 300k by pre-selling products, 6 months down the line, investors could actually have seen that and be actually very interested in actually getting involved in their business in quite early days. So ultimately, market strategy is really important for us, but the main thing is that we help businesses get to the point where they're actually ready to launch. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from every presentation today, is that there are generally, there's an awful lot of stuff you need to do to be able to be at the right stage where you can essentially scale up. I'll stop there.